Start working on it.
We good to go?
Good to go.
Alrighty. Want to turn on their little recording devices? And let's call this meeting to order with a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance.
A roll call? We do.
Oh, yeah, we'll do roll call too. That makes sense.
Okay, cool. Kathy Cavalier. Here. Tiffany DeMayo here. Chris Wilson.
Here.
Bob Baker.
Well, Bill Baker's here.
Bill. Dude, this is the second time in a row. I'm gonna get it right. I
Many years ago.
apologize.
Well, that's okay. That's close enough.
And my son's name is William too. You'd think I'd remember that. All right. And right up.
Here.
Donna McCall.
Not present
Not
for the day.
present. All right.
Then we can move on to the
Yes,
moment of silence,
okay.
Pledge of Allegiance. And if you would start that, that would be great. Thank you, Stephen. Message.
I don't think we can hear it. That's
I
okay.
understand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
All right.
Does the agenda look good to everybody?
Yes.
I'll motion we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. We do not have a public today, so we will bypass the public comment section. Okay, they causing trouble. Can I make a motion that we approve the agenda from the previous meeting?
Minute. The minutes from the previous meeting.
What?
The minutes.
I say agenda.
You did.
I did.
Okay.
Then I will make a motion that we approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
Well, it sounds like
Second.
Frank's gonna second it.
All right, new business, discussion regarding facts and best practices guideline regarding the ordinance for historic property owners and potential owners.
We have that, right?
Who has this one?
That was what we were going to discuss today. I don't think that anybody owns it. Discuss FAQs or best practice guidelines regarding the ordinance for historic property owners and potential owners. That's what I added to the meeting for this week, so.
So what was that referencing?
So
Information on the one letter that,
I think it was, you showed us a booklet.
this.
Right.
That's what this is referencing.
Yes, I
Okay.
believe so, that we wanted to make something specific for our ordinance.
Correct. I think this is being updated.
Mm-hmm,
So I didn't want to borrow, this is the county,
mm-hmm.
as it stands. So, yeah, I'm getting together with the county. Beverly Barnes, I meet with her once a month, so I will discuss when that's coming out, but it hasn't come out yet, the updated. But it's a design guidelines, if anybody wants to look at it.
Right,
And it's pretty broad, but it's just, as I said, a guide for all different types of structures and homes. And the
so,
thing is, and what is recommended versus our ordinance doesn't stipulate a whole lot about
mhm.
repairing or returning like for like when you take down
So would we want to,
a piece of molding or something from the outside, or you're going to take out overhang or something like that. We don't really have that in there. And I don't know if they come for a permit for that. And that's the only time we would see them is if they came for
Yeah,
a
if it
permit.
was a permittable
Right. Project.
repair or maintenance project, then yes. But one of the things that you could recommend, what you could do is recommend, even though that they're gonna update the guidelines, is what you think they're gonna do. You could put in, I think we can do this. And we'll have to verify that with the solicitor, but you could write the adjustment to the ordinance to say that, you know, we would recommend or we would ask people to go by the frequently asked questions and best practices guidelines adopted by the county. And the most current one adopted by the county. And so that you don't necessarily have to change the ordinance every time the county changes the guidelines.
Right. Yes, we would just put that in there. Yeah.
So I think we can do
That's
that. We'd have to run that by the solicitor, but that's one possible way of addressing that if you wanted to make a recommendation for a
Right.
change, knowing that there could be a change to the guidelines that you want to, you know, but then that makes the assumption that you're happy with all of their guidelines, no matter, you know, when they change it, if you're still
That was
happy
the
with them
thing,
all.
yeah.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, then that's one way of doing that.
Okay.
Well, I think the other thing that we were talking about was the FAQs, because you get asked the same questions
Yes.
again and again and again and again. And to have that someplace accessible, like on the historic preservation page on the township website,
We can, yes.
to just, have that listed. So anybody can direct somebody to, hey, you know what, FAQs are listed here, or hey, here's a link to the FAQs. That way it cuts down the repetitive conversations that you have.
So how do we proceed with getting FAQ?
I sit down and ask you a lot of questions.
That's one way to do
And then I write them down and I type them up.
Frequently asked
Yeah.
questions, yes. And I had actually
Getting feedback.
one for the, because in reading and I reread and reread the ordinance, I don't see a specific part that deals with anything requiring a permit. Goes before. I see demolition a lot. So, I mean, I can be missing it, or maybe, where it doesn't say alterations to your home specifically.
Yeah,
It's kind of almost goes over that.
yeah, I think the way it's written is more if somebody is going to take something down,
Yes.
yes,
A part of
a
it.
part of it. And I think Andy's always viewed that pretty broadly, like,
Mhm.
you know, if I'm gonna take off this side of the house to attach an addition, what does that look like? What are you doing? What's the impact it would come before you? Even, I remember that we brought before you a pool house on a property that was considered historic. And so he's
Okay.
taken it pretty broadly to
Okay.
get it before you. But if you wanted to make it more specific, you could make a recommendation. Because here's what I'll tell you, Andy probably won't be here forever.
Right.
Just like I don't plan on being here forever, so,
Right,
you know.
and they don't, no one's really questioned yet.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
So when I'm reading, I'm like, I'm always looking for.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, and it's not anything huge, it just means that, oh yeah, you're gonna put this addition on, or you're gonna add this to it, you just have to.
And I think
show the
I think
piece.
that was the concern that you've had in other times. You know, I think that was one of the frustrations, you know, even with the Friends School, one of the reasons why they didn't want to go to a class 2 was because they were needing to put on a vestibule to
Right.
get into the building, if you remember.
Right.
And they were concerned about how that would have to go through the process if you were a class 2. So, yeah, that's my understanding of how Andy kind of
Okay.
looked at it was.
So we'll consider that.
If you
yes.
were altering the outside of the building in any way, then
That requires a permit,
that-
and that was,
that
yes.
requires a permit. That's how.
That's, yeah,
that's how
that
it
needs,
goes
because that
before
would then alert him, because they
Yeah.
come for the permit.
We have once it's a class 2 resource, we have like a little like warning sign that comes up on our software when we
Okay.
type in that address. Says it's a class 2 permit, it's a class 2 historic structure. So we immediately know it has to meet certain qualifications for any action that we're gonna take against it.
Okay. So I'll come up with some language for that.
And I just, for our next meeting, I added to discuss some possible motion to add, to make the recommendation to add the language.
Okay.
Okay.
And it won't be.
In the spirit of things,
Mm,
is the objective to have as many rules and guidelines as possible. So you don't get too creative and inconsistent with decisions that are made, say here. Like we are following the guidelines even through this book. And it's at the county and it's local and therefore the decision process, the path is pretty narrow in terms of making decisions.
I think the way I would answer that, I don't know that the board wants it to be so narrow, but I think
Okay.
that the board is happy for this group to make recommendations on a basis, understanding that the board may allow for an action to be taken that may not be that by a homeowner. If that makes sense. I don't think the guidelines become more than guidelines. Like, I don't think they become rules.
Right.
Right, I mean, they become
Yeah.
guidelines, if they're truly guidelines, that's what they are versus rules.
Okay, I mean, in my mind, I'm going, there's guidelines and now there's guidelines. The
Yeah.
more narrow, but they're not so narrow that you're paralyzed by them.
Yeah.
But it gives you latitudes of making decisions,
Mhm.
but it's so, they're not so wide that every time you make a decision, somebody comes up, well, yeah, but last week you said. kind of
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, I do think that I think good guidelines work well. I think if they're too restrictive, the board's gonna be less likely
Right.
to want to be that restrictive on a property owner.
right.
I think
And-
there's a balance, it's like, I think you have to look at it and say, is it broad enough that allows people to still enjoy their property that they purchased? But at the same time, still protect the history that you're trying to protect.
Yeah.
That's that balance.
Yeah, okay, all right.
And if you're thinking you would use that as a determination, you don't have to because they're guidelines. You
Yeah.
could say, well, that's not exactly what it should be, but it's tasteful. It fits the look of the house. That's why they always want architects or somebody that's knowledgeable in historic restoration to review some guidelines to see, and that's what they update it based on. They don't just pick some of the more strict. That could be in there, but that's not in your ordinance. So these guides are for everybody. But that just means it's a guide. Oh, I want to do something on my house. I got this type. What would look the best? And they'll still present it perhaps because they need a permit for it. But it doesn't mean that has to fit exactly a 1700 house.
But-
Look
but
on the
gives you-
one on
but it gives you a
Goshen
starting
Road.
point to make a decision
Mhm.
that you can make an exception from.
Yes,
Okay, it gives you that.
yes.
basis, rather than you don't have anything that
Well,
even talk
and in
about it.
examples, and there's examples, and you can go to Goshen Road to the Haysham House across from Culbertson, kind of down on the left, and see their addition. And they did come here with all their plans, but we had looked at them ahead of time and knew that they were fine, and I had met with the person putting it on.
Yeah.
But that was, that's a good example of somebody who took it and added tastefully to the home. And if you want to see one that isn't, then you would go to Teca and see that, look at the roof and see that the house is within the restaurant. It was encapsulated. That would be something you would not encourage. Charlotte's did the same thing. They encapsulated the barrel in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and those were I think that was what set the tone. It was like the extreme, you totally hide something. When in actuality, you could use part of the structure and have added to it. And actually, Teca would have looked really good because it was a really nice house.
Yeah.
So,
Before we move
That's-
off this topic,
Mm.
is there a way to circulate the current guidelines? Just, I mean, I don't imagine
You
that they're
mean
going to
these?
wildly change the guidelines. Yeah.
These, yeah, I can, let me see, I'll
it
have to ask
online?
her, I think it is. So, because I asked her for a hard copy. So, yeah, I'd have to go to planning department, Delaware County, and it's, see, they're from 2012, so that's why they want to do them again. And I think you can access, you can put that together. And if you look through it, there's actually one here, from Sawmill Road. The stone, if you've gone down halfway down Sawmill Road on the right,
Mhm.
it's up at the road. And then they put an addition onto the side of that. They actually use that in here as a guide for how to do it. Many of these aren't even as old. We have a fair amount of very old houses. And the town and the county doesn't, and they've broadened their term of what is old now. And they're dropping, I think, to 50 years, and they're doing mid-century modern. And they're gonna start adding, so they're gonna add a lot of different things to the criteria that they use. So if you look through this, you're gonna say, whoa, these are craftsman houses and houses from the 40s, and ours is 75 years, which
I got it.
means 2025. Or, yeah, 2025, any house 1950 going forward is eligible if it meets any of those criteria on there. So that's a difference that I don't think people realize. A lot of houses around here that were built then, so. So yes, I am due to meet with her, so let me go
Mhm.
through that and get that, and I'll see, I'll write her and see if we can
Yeah.
access it, and I'll just send you the link.
Right, okay, well, I
You found it, okay,
Mhm.
so there you go.
And the reason I asked is because if we want to suggest or make the
We can use
recommendation,
it.
well, to make the recommendation to put that specific or the updated guideline in the ordinance, I want to just look at it and see if it makes sense or if
Mhm.
it's like just way too broad for what we're. Because again, my concern is that people will say, oh my gosh, it doesn't apply to me because there's just too much information.
There was, I thought it was done.
But that's why I wanted to look at it first.
I mean, they mention a lot of different things that they recommend that you keep,
Mhm.
that people technically often alter dormers. I mean, things that you wouldn't think of that,
Mhm.
but again, that's all, it's a guideline. And when they came in and bring up their plan to you, you can totally
Yeah.
say, well,
There's
that doesn't fit.
47 pages.
Yes. If somebody's interested and wants to do something, they'll read it. And I think, yeah. That looks like, brings me, anyway.
Okay.
That's it for that.
Righty. So we're gonna move on to the old business now,
Mhm.
which takes us to discussion and possible action on the certified local government program application.
How
I
we
don't
doing?
have any update at this point.
But no problems, and I have a copy, I didn't know if you.
Yeah, I haven't seen any problems. I just haven't, I think we just need to present the concept to the board.
Oh, do they have to approve even applying?
Yeah, I think that we would want them to approve applying, just so they make sure that they're in agreement with moving forward with that.
So I had sent something to Leonard a while back.
Yeah, let's just follow up with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see what he wants to do. I'll
Yep.
go forward. I will do that. He's got a lot going on. He's gonna try to remember that. Okay.
All right. Then 8.2, discussion on possible action on letters to realtor purchasers of Class 2 resources. Where do we stand with this one?
Discussion of possible action on letters to realtors. Oh, so did everyone have a chance to read them after the last meeting? Because I think we were gonna
Yes.
make a motion to approve them.
Okay.
Is that right?
Did everybody read them?
I think I read them during the last meeting and didn't see
Yeah.
any issues.
Yeah, we did. I think
Yeah.
we decided, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is just where we're supposed to
Did we determine
officially approve.
how, did we determine how exactly process will be for them to
go out? Or are we just gonna get them
Oh, I
approved
think
first,
that's.
and then we'll figure it out?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we talked about last time.
Yeah, I think we determined that, you know, a letter when a class 2 is approved is easy. But the other actions of a letter.
So it says, what we talked
So
about
let's-
was, I would send a letter to the realtors when a property goes up for sale to review. And then we'll ask Donna if there's an MLS trigger when a home goes up for sale. So we can determine who should provide the letter to the realtor.
Okay,
So this, that says congratulations homeowners, right? That, at this point, do we have an exact count of how many were put into the ordinance?
4?
Class 2? No, total. 9, maybe? Do we?
Well, they just approved, they just
Or
approved
5.
5 last night.
So,
Oh,
yes.
So that's
we're
9,
between
okay.
10 and 15.
Is it 9? It's 9.
Is it? Because we had 4 previously.
I think so.
Mhm.
I have a list.
So when do we get notified that they're approved? Because we have to
We just have to
keep
sort
track
of
of the list.
suss it out.
I was there. I know they got approved. I go to them.
So-
Or Chris goes.
Okay, so my question is, how are we going to funnel that information to either me as the secretary so that I can update the list or so I can notify Heather, because we talked about keeping
Yeah,
the list
so-
on.
So a little bit of a change. Heather is leaving the township at the end of the month.
Okay,
I do not know who the replacement's gonna be yet, so
Okay.
we're gonna have to work through that. So that's the one thing we're kind of,
well, in the short term,
in the short term,
Do
yeah.
you have envelopes with postage, 9 envelopes, we could
Yeah.
send 9 letters.
well, no, what I'm saying is, you 3 might know who's been added to the list, but if I'm updating the list, I need to know.
I think that's why I'm saying I think it's on the township website, isn't it?
I have a document that tentatively
They add
gets
the dots.
updated as things move forward.
Yeah, I thought it got.
So we can confirm which ones are officially approved. And then use that
I
as
know
the
them
base
hard.
document.
Well, I mean, even if you guys are there, if you want to just like shoot me a text message or an email saying, hey, we had things approved, I can go look it up, but it's just, unless I am a very inquisitive investigator, I'm looking at every single agenda of every single Board of Supervisors meeting.
No, I would think we would have a list.
Yeah, but the list is supposed to be it'll be on the website, township website,
It should.
by little icons. But the thing I'm thinking is, since we have a list and there's 9, these letters to the homeowners can go out.
So
We can send them out. There's 9
my,
letters.
my question is, Kathy, who's updating this list?
I think last time Steve said it was, zoning or code, put it up there when they were.
Yeah,
approved.
I think that Heather's probably updating the list on the website,
Okay.
Heather had a
but
document as
I'm
well.
checking right now.
All right, so, yeah, before the 5 that just got approved, I had these 4 listed on my list here. And that seemed to match up with Heather's list when she sent it to me.
Say them.
Yeah, we may need
There's
to-
5, actually.
So was it Boot Road, or Goshen Road, Kelly Road, Earl's Lane, and Mill Hollow that went through last week?
Oh, there's more than 9. Yeah. No. It was Hickory Lane, North Newtown Street Road, Goshen Road, College Avenue, and
Let's,
Earl's Lane. So that
let's-
was 5, and you had Mill Hollow. And then you had the Federal House, Giuliani's house, the Mill Workers House, Friends Meeting, and the William Lewis House. So that is
let's,
more than
let's
9.
collate our lists and make sure we agree on where everything is in the
Yeah.
process. At this point, we shouldn't have anything in approval. Everything should either be waiting to go approval or
Right,
through.
so that's why I'm saying there's more than 9, there should be, I think. You can't find them?
So College Avenue went through.
Hickory Lane,
So we might be at 10, or are you saying we're more than that? Because I see 6 Newtown Street Road is waiting to go, Tanglewood is waiting to go. And the 2 Goshens. The Spring House and the Haysham House waiting to go.
right, they're not included. So you have the William Lewis House, Goshen, Friends Meeting, Mill Workers, the Giuliani House at St. David's Road, the Federal House on the Pike, Hickory Lane, Goshen Road, the Yarnell House, North Newtown Street Road, Mill Hollow, College Avenue, and Earl's Lane, the Lewis House. That
Yeah,
are on the ordinance.
You've got 1 or 2 that I don't have on my list,
So that's 11.
which means my list is out of date.
Yes.
Well, if you'll get the list that you think it is, send it to both Heather and I.
I will.
She's here through the 30th.
I think I have them in my.
I'll have her verify that against what we know we've passed. And then I will ask her to go ahead and make sure that list is updated. What I have is updated on the website. I've also asked that they be submitted to our township engineer who does our updating of our zoning map. And so they're working on updating the zoning map.
Okay. So then, that would be,
Where would we find the list on the website though? That's what I'm still looking for.
I don't see,
I don't think.
I don't see it, so I'm gonna
They don't
ask
have it yet.
Heather to make sure it gets put up there.
Okay.
Oh, Haley Road. I have them all, because I keep all the write-ups that when I present them. Boot Road. More than you'd realize. Which is good. It's okay, you got that, so we're up to 12, 13.
Let's match our lists up.
Yeah, no, I will. I'm just curious myself, so I'm going through here. Noticing all these. Okay. And on top of that, with the letter they should all receive, they have been asking about if they don't have one, many do, a plaque. So they were done by basically you get a sponsor, someone that would sponsor plaques for the, it was the Rotary, I think, and several others who did it. All those green plaques you see everywhere. So the newest people all would like a plaque because many didn't have one because they weren't given them at the time when the book came out. So that's something that I think the Historic Society is going to do.
Okay.
Well, so I think we should just send them the letter and because we have to figure out a way that gets paid for. And they may partially have to pay for
How
that.
much does a plaque cost?
It was metal ones, they're probably up to 200-300. They're very heavy, the big ones, and then they have to be installed.
Right, and
Now they can opt for one on the wall.
and who writes the magic words that are on these plaques?
The
We help
Historic
them.
Society did the originals back in the day. So they had a place they went to, I can't find that same one. And they had the information from our historic resource inventory, like a little summary when it was built. Yeah, there's quite a few of them.
What's coming to mind is the plaques that are going on the new trail behind. Pickett.
Yes.
There's debate on, not debate, but discussion about the right language for those plaques. So I don't know whether language is a challenge or not.
Now, have you read?
I haven't read it. No, I'm just.
Some of them, just to get an example, you could go down and see some of them. The most obvious, well, the one at the tavern's real obvious. We stuck it in the back because we took it out from where it was. So it's by the back door. It's that green one that's there and it'll just say date it was built, what it's notable for, that kind of thing. And it gives a little brief piece. And that's really what they were looking for. So, yeah, I haven't quite figured that. So if anybody wants to take on that idea, you guys can, but if you can come up even with the prototype for it, what would be a good, that we can try to
Prototype plan.
fundraise for that.
So at least they're consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do we want to put further plaque discussion on next
Yeah,
month's
yes, the
agenda?
further plaque, that's good.
And are we at a point on this month with the letters that we can consider approving them, even if we don't have
Congratulations to the homeowners.
even
yeah.
if we don't have a firm plan on how we're going to distribute them?
No, who,
Well, I
in
think,
which category?
I would think the easiest to start with is sending the homeowners who get put into the ordinance.
Yeah.
'Cause
yes,
They
that-
would like
that-
confirmation.
that one's the easy one.
Yeah, so that's the, I would start with that one. And then just get those letters, your letter to the homeowner, congratulations.
Did we approve that one already? I
That's
think-
what we're gonna do, yeah, but tonight, we're gonna approve the homeowner.
I thought that one was approved and it was just the other two that we needed to
Do you
approve,
mean the realtor?
the realtor and the new
I don't know.
purchaser.
You would, is that what you think?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, we just have to decide. We wanna mail them out, and we can get this postage paid by the township, they can give you postage paid by
Uh-huh.
envelopes. Probably could live it. I mean, would we mail them, or would the office, could the office mail, there's like, say there's 14.
I think if you bring them in addressed to the new homeowners, like if you do the letters up, you want to put them on township letterhead, we'll do that, and then just bring them in and we'll make sure they get in an envelope and mailed. I don't think we're gonna hand out envelopes with postage on it. That's my point.
I know, I was just, I know they're going up, those forever stamps, they're going up 4 cents.
So if I were
Sweet.
to have a Word document.
Well,
and
and if
send
we,
it, cause I don't have letterhead. I mean, I'd love to print it out on letterhead.
well, if
Yeah.
you have it in a Word, if you have it in a Word document and a list of who it goes to,
I'll get you the list.
for 12 of them
Okay,
or 14.
Yeah, I'll get
We'll
the
just send
list.
them over for now. If you get it done between now and the 30th, we'll send it to Heather, and Heather, I'll ask Heather to
Okay.
do it.
all right.
If you don't, then I'll find somebody else to do it. Just make sure you send it to me. Remind what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I only say that
That's the
because they're all
list.
asking.
Yeah.
They contact me and they say, well, we didn't get through, because they don't always show up,
Yeah,
and or they leave.
nobody was here Monday night, so,
Well, they
When-
came the one before.
Yeah.
And then I told them they were at the end.
yeah.
And so I said, don't worry, I don't think there's gonna be a problem. They don't always know that they,
Yeah.
they show up in case there was, but they don't really. So I told them they didn't have to, that one. But they, they write me. Or they stop.
All right, so are we gonna motion for all three letters or just the one?
Where's the realtor? I don't remember that as well.
They were all
I-
essentially the same thing. It was just how they were
Oh,
addressed.
okay.
I mean, they literally
Oh,
were all the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, let's just vote on the realtor one, and maybe we can talk to Don about how that gets.
Yeah, I had on the meeting notes from the last meeting that, that we had asked Donna if there was notification on the MLS, if there was an MLS trigger when a home goes up for sale.
Bill might know, because your wife's a realtor, right? Or you're a realtor.
I officially am, but she's the real realtor, but she's with the same company, Berkshire. We're all with Berkshire Hathaway, Donna,
Okay,
Barbara. Yeah.
if you could ask anyone that question.
Yeah.
I'll ask, I'll see what they,
Yeah. Do you understand what we mean by trigger?
Yeah, when you come to closing and the house transfers, deed is signed.
I think our intention is to know when a house goes up for sale. Like when an MLS is created for an historic property that goes up for sale.
Well, usually that's when it gets published. There's something called Bright. All the realtors use it.
Yeah,
When it goes on Bright, to me, that's when it's officially listed.
Uh-huh.
But the realtor, if you send it to a realtor, even if you send it and it is on Bright, they'll do something with it or not do with it.
we're just trying to find an efficient way, and I don't know if it makes sense because I mean, there's just so many realtors, but like, if the bigger realtor companies know, like, oh, this is a historic home, this is a process, we just like let them know that this is, it's a part of an ordinance, here's more information.
If they're smart, they'll use it as a selling point. It's a historic.
Not to say that we'd solicit them, but just to,
Yep.
if we were to approach realtor companies and say, hey, we now have an ordinance in Newtown Township. So far, these are the properties. Should any of them go up for sale, this might be something you want to put in or communicate to potential homeowners or potential buyers, if they would even care.
And then this is what they typically do now is they go to the home. You have Earl's Lane up for sale. The one we just put on the ordinance, she bought it last year. She's got it for sale again. So that's the Lewis house. It has a big plaque, has that. You can't miss it. So when the realtor goes there, they know that it's historic. But then they'll call and ask, what are the restrictions? That's what most of the calls are. I think most of the ones that have gone for sale had plaques. So they right away knew, okay, so let me check. And they assumed that there was. And the other person just looked at the old house and it wasn't on there on Brimmer Avenue and just called saying, are there restrictions? Because we noted that this house looks like it's an 1800s spring house. So that is how it's done right now.
An approach, Donna would probably give you a better answer,
Mhm.
is every realtor has got a broker, okay? So Remax, Berkshire
Right.
Hathaway, et cetera. Send this sample letter
The
to all
broker
the
was,
brokers.
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And
what-
then the
what
brokers
general
will have
word.
it at their meetings. Hey, think about historic
There you
houses.
go.
Yeah,
Okay, and
yeah.
then it gets into the communication within the brokerage.
right, yeah, that was my thought, like Berkshire Hathaway or,
Berkshire Hathaway,
know,
Remax,
yeah, I just didn't
All
know.
the ones in Newtown.
The
Square.
title of them is broker,
Broker,
right?
yeah.
And this one
They run the realty.
is marketing it. It's Compass is marketing it as
Compass
historic.
is another, yeah.
On Earl's Lane, yeah.
that-
So they do
that's a
it
newer
and
one.
they do it. Yeah, I know. But that's what they start out with, saying it's a historic home and it's been totally renovated, so.
Yeah.
um,
And they might want to, they might even take some of that language and put it into Bright. Okay, what a historic home means. But you give them the language and then they'll do what they want.
Yeah, the source, it says source, Bright MLS.
Yeah, that's,
Okay,
it used
that's
to be
where they
called,
get, okay.
it used to be called just multiple listings.
Yeah.
Then they
Mhm.
renamed it Bright.
Oh, okay.
Just to be
Okay.
confusing, and we still call it MLS.
Yeah, we're still called, yeah, because we're set in our ways.
Yes.
Okay.
All righty. Does anybody want to motion this?
That we approve this?
Yeah.
I'll motion, we approve the letters to homeowners and the realists. I guess it's
I'll
realtors.
second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Then it is approved. Takes us on to public comment. Still do not have a public. So,
I was asked to look at 3201 Westchester Pike.
Mhm.
Because we had people here that were involved.
Yeah.
They aren't here now, but I did get over to look at it.
I was gonna ask you if you had a chance to.
And it's inside, it's been dismantled. There's no kitchen. The bathroom isn't there. The heating system isn't any good. The stairways are too narrow. There's nothing really salvageable.
So it's got a solid exterior and a mess of an interior?
You got a lot of stone they gotta knock down. They got $80,000 to knock the building down. But that's better than 200,000 and not being able to use it for anything.
But the exterior is solid, as you had,
The exterior.
I have your other report, and that's what it said, the
Yeah,
exterior.
The exterior is solid. There's no
Mm-hmm.
fracture damage. You got 18-inch walls, 22-inch foundations. The building could sit there for 100 years and it'll still be there 100 years from now.
Maybe without a roof or an interior, but.
there's-
And perhaps that's
The
your
walls will be
recommendation.
there.
It's not functional or salvageable or anything we could use.
Is the interior still in like that division of like two separate?
You could go back and forth in between it. You could go upstairs on two different narrow stairways and down two different, but you could walk through in
Okay.
either one. So they broke it down to where it's single, and it's old plaster. It would be a total renovation, at least.
How spacious or not spacious inside would it be if you were to reconfigure it?
It's still masonry wall in between the building. They're still gonna be divided into two sections with like a doorway that goes in between them.
Okay.
They got two stairways and they're they're both too narrow. You can't, by today's function, this 30-inch desk will fit through a 30-inch opening. They had a 30-inch opening and they put plaster on the wall and they put a railing in there. Leaves you 27 inches. Nothing goes up 27 inches. You know, if
Yeah,
I'm getting
that's-
a house
That's
for,
true of a lot of old houses.
yeah, it
Right.
needs,
Are the interior walls stone or are they are they
the wall in
plaster on?
between it is.
What?
The wall in between the two sections. is
Okay,
Stone.
And that wouldn't be, you wouldn't be able to remove that?
You can make a hole through it.
you can remove anything. With enough
Your floor
engineering.
joists are resting on that wall.
Yeah.
You have
That's terrible.
two houses.
Yeah,
The floor joists go and they tie into the center wall.
okay,
And that, you can make an opening through it. But you can't take it out.
okay.
It's, you know, it was a good idea 150 years ago, but today doesn't look too good for that house.
A little trickier to use today.
I would say let them tear it down.
I don't want to jump right to that. I mean, there are,
Well, no, that's why we're asking these questions, because
Yeah,
okay.
it is, we want to be able to come up with some creative
it is-
options,
it is not,
but
it is not unheard of to leave a
The
historic
options,
building in the front corner of a property and put something else behind it. And the front corner building is really just for decoration.
to make it to a safety standard by today. Because when anybody does anything in the house, they're gonna come up to today's standards. They're gonna have to redo the entire electrical system, entire heating system. They're gonna have to take the walls and redo the walls. There was a fire in there back somewhere along its life, you know, so the floor joists are still strong, but they're all charred. They just put whitewash over them.
Mhm.
So they're whitewashed, but they're, as a contractor,
mhm,
Depending on what it would be used for, though.
Yeah.
You're thinking of
Okay,
somebody's
I'm-
home, but I think the people that have commented on it, then that's local people who see it and wonder about it.
yeah, but
Mention it
there's-
as useful, what do you call it, reuse, adaptive.
mhm.
Reuse is office, apartment, so there's been a lot of, the thinking being there was never that option because it never went on the market. So that is part of,
It would need, all the stairways have to be made wider. You can't even, you know, when you go in them, they're crowded. They're 27 inches is a hell of a lot of room.
But if you're using the first
Oh.
floor as an alternative use space, do you even need stairwells?
No, you don't have closets either, but that's another story.
Do you need closets if you're gonna use it as an office space?
And if you can make a doorway between, in it through that wall, do you need two staircases if you're using it as one building?
Well, you could, but you still have to make it wider.
Well, no, I
You're
know,
gonna-
yeah. But instead of having to make two staircases wider, you could, you only need one staircase and then create more space.
You have to find a tenant who wants to,
wants to totally renovate like the paper mill house that was totally falling apart and you could see the sky.
have.
Well, I know, totally
I- I
changed
w- I
the
was-
major staircase,
You wouldn't be,
created
you
one.
wouldn't be there if
I
it was
know.
up to me.
I know.
It's true.
I was there in the beginning. There was no way I would have saved that building.
I know, and look at it now.
I did a little homework on this property and ironically, the property that I picked as my similar scenario is a building that is sitting empty and has been sitting empty for 15 years, and it was kept simply because it's always been there.
Yeah,
They're not using it for anything,
yeah, well,
but they
it's
put
historic.
the new building behind it and it works fine.
The most historic thing on it is the porch, and that's already fallen down. And it's,
Huh.
you know,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things the building could be used for, but
it's,
you have to be creative to get there.
when you're looking at it, as I looked at it as a contractor, and to put money into it, and then expect to get something back, you may be able to rent it out, you know, and you may not, but if you're spending $200,000 for a renovation, and then you're trying to get rent, and you gotta buy the building too, it ends up being like, you got $500,000 invested. If I got $500,000, I'm not investing in that building.
Well, he's already got $500,000 invested.
We gotta buy it.
Hmm.
And then you have to renovate. They have to make a decision whether it's cost effective.
I mean,
or not.
there's no shortage of buildings up and down the pike that have been extensively renovated and used for something else.
Yeah,
It can
But
be
you have to
done,
get-
it's just whether it should be done.
usually if you have a tenant, you could say, okay, I can renovate the building because I have X for a tenant. If you don't have a tenant and you're going for pie in the sky, you're gonna renovate the building, you're,
Yeah, I'm hesitant to say, go ahead and tear it down when there's no stated purpose for the property, other than we just want an empty lot that's easier to market. I mean, the building's been there 250 years.
yeah.
You could tear it down and the property may not be worth any more than it is today, but you can't get that house back. So I understand,
And
I understand both sides of the coin.
from a contractor's point of view,
Well, from a contractor's point of view, we should tear all old houses.
I was gonna say, I don't know about that. This is not, yes,
gonna-
I don't think
you're gonna-
that's who we're.
And that's why
you're
we
gonna spend a lot of money,
Yeah,
you're not getting anything for your money.
That's all right.
Right.
Except for
that's why
maintaining a piece of township history.
history, you need somebody who's motivated by that,
We just can't
Who wants to
see
do
where the money's gonna come from or
Because
that
how it's going to drive
There's-
revenue yet.
The
Yeah,
windows
it's
weren't
gonna
any
happen.
good, the doors weren't any good, the interior isn't any good. The only thing that's gonna be there forever is the stone.
Mhm.
The guy's in
for
there,
us.
so he can't hear what I'm saying.
So.
Yeah,
my-
but-
my-
Go ahead, before we get off this, I have a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
New guy here, all right? Assuming this debate wasn't academic, okay, it was a real citizen making all your
Yeah.
points, okay, and you're responding. What's our role? What's our process? What do we vote on? What do we do? Help, hinder here in this? We don't have any, do we have authority to do anything?
Our role
Mm-mm.
theoretically is to help use some things differently, consider an option other than demolition, unless demolition is the only option.
Well, I think first and foremost, our role is to make recommendations to the board on which properties we believe meet the criteria for class 2 resource.
And again, using this as
Yeah.
the example, not, okay?
Right,
And so the homeowner makes all the points you made,
yep,
Yeah,
and we think it should stay historic, kind of
right.
what Chris is saying. Do we vote and then say township, here's
So-
what the.
Well, I
commission
think the
thinks?
question is.
there's more discussion than that.
Yeah.
I think the question comes back is this, one of the roles of this committee, there's what, if I come in as, I'm saying I'm destroying the property, that I want to take that building down.
Like Frank, if Frank.
Like
tried to make
Frank,
that case.
Frank made the point.
Yeah.
What we have basically is a 90-day cooling off period, so that you have a chance to come up with a solution that the property owner may choose to go forward and try to do. There's nothing that forces them to do that, even if you come up with a solution. But that goes back to this whole idea of, and it's hard because there's not particularly now, I don't know a lot of funding sources to buy somebody to offset some of the costs for maintaining a building that's a historic structure. But you would then make a recommendation if you saying that the house should stay, and then it could go before the board of supervisors, I believe, for a final decision.
It would be harder to make a recommendation not to take it down if there was in front of us a viable proposal to do something with it. But in this case, my impression is the proposal is to take it down to make the lot more marketable. You're gonna
Yes,
be hard pressed to get me to vote for that.
it was purchased for 400 and I think it was 450,000. And as an empty lot, as it is on loop, it's 1,100,000. So this person,
But isn't,
that's what they're listing it for.
but isn't. If they take that property down and put it up for sale, will it sell at that, or will it sit there until it's lowered
Wait,
to 500
so-
or 600?
It says, price per, so it's 1.17 acre, price per acre, 940,000.
Right, doing nothing.
It's
Yeah.
not gonna sell for $1 million as a residential lot. in
No,
that
no.
location. It's just not gonna happen.
That's
It would have to be flipped to
Art.
commercial, and there would have to be.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
more
There's a
demand
whole lot
in
of
that
different
location,
things.
which there isn't. So I think we're gonna tear a house down, and that lot's gonna sit empty for 20 years.
Yeah, no one wants to live right that facing Westchester Pike.
Anyways,
No,
I think our position is to propose options alternate to demolishing unless there is no other option. And I think we're to some extent an advocate for the history. But it's a discussion, that's all it is.
So if this turned real, there'd be a 90-day cooling off period. We would huddle and come up with options,
Mhm.
and in 3 months or shorter or whatever, give the options to the homeowner.
Uh-huh.
And at some point, it would go to the Board of Supervisors. Both sides. Homeowner wants this, we say no.
I think if the homeowner decided to take one of your options, I don't know that it needs to go before the Board of Supervisors. I
Okay.
think if the homeowner's saying, I still want to take the building down, I think that's when it goes up,
That's right.
if I remember the ordinance.
Okay.
If the
It is,
homeowner wants it
that-
down, if the homeowner wants it down, our protests are not going to stop that.
Yeah.
The community protest might, and if the township supervisors for some reason decided the property was so super special that they couldn't allow it, maybe they could do it, but they probably wind up getting sued and.
Okay.
And it would wind up going through the courts.
So in the end, that's the process. You go through and it gives you in the ordinance, different recommendations you can offer to a homeowner, different, they could, the problem with it as it stands being zoned residential, it limits what that they can sell that or do with it. And the neighbors are very concerned about what's going to be there. So it's going to become a big thing, even though the demolition part is just our part and, with the history, the
This property. that I
Resulting-
Referenced as a comparison. There was no ordinance when this happened. And they went to zoning and it wound up being the public pressure that kept that building there, not anything from zoning.
Yeah.
So this may be the same sort of thing, or this may be a case where people say that they just don't care that much about that
Right.
particular building.
Mhm.
Or maybe somebody steps forward and says, I really want to fix that up.
Yeah.
But the builder in us knows that will not be easy.
No,
Yeah.
if they're listing the property for 1.1, they're not gonna take anything less for the property with the building, and then you still have to renovate it.
Yeah, I mean, yes, yeah.
But anyways, my second page list is just kind of a
All the
listing of
properties.
some
That was a good
properties that
idea.
that are
On the pike that.
on the pike, that are being used for something other than what they were originally intended.
Mhm.
I think 3 of them, maybe 4, are class 2 resources, whether they're zoned that way or not. The community animal hospital is a Marple resource. And
Oh,
then
that's
Charlotte's
Marple.
and Lamb McLean are Newtown resources. Even if they're not zoned that way yet.
Okay.
Poly Associates looks like it's an older property.
All right, is there anything else that we want to discuss before we?
Or the travel agency.
Just- Oh, right, yeah. New business wise, trying to come up with an idea of, idea to get these applications in, as you know, people don't spontaneously.
I just real quick want to remind you, we're going way off the agenda at this point.
Isn't this new
so-
business?
Well, but
We
you
can
gotta
add-
have it on the agenda to discuss
add
it,
new
so that
business to the
people
next.
can,
Well, can we add this to the discussion next time?
yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
That's what we'll do.
I just watching us kind of move.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
I let this kind of go, 'cause
I know.
I know that there's issues on this, but
Yeah.
I just need you to kind of stay on the agenda, because the public has a right to come in if they
Yeah.
want to.
Oh,
first.
right, yeah, I'm not gonna,
That's the.
just, applications, the, process for the applications, to streamline it a little bit, I came up with an idea, so we can discuss that, at the next meeting. And it will involve everybody doing a piece, but the main part won't be.
Is there anything else that we want to put on next month's agenda? Or anything else we need to discuss before we adjourn?
All those things we that we mentioned, right? You
Yeah, I
have them down?
Yeah, I have,
You got them all down?
I have asterisks on everything.
All right, perfect.
One thing that kind of, I guess got brushed under the rug was our discussion like last year on, what are they called? Events where we can,
Publicize.
right, that's a great word. There you go. I can't think of what we were calling it, but community
Outreach.
outreach.
Community
There you
outreach.
go.
Yeah, we talked about doing a brochure, which we, I think, approved, but never. printed.
Right, but we also had a list of things like circle at sundown,
Circle at sundown.
which is
Mhm.
coming up, and I was like, oh
Let-
yeah, that's right, we said we were gonna do that. But we
The-
never
the-
did, so
the
that got me
farmer's
thinking,
market.
like, do we wanna bring that
Well, you
conversation
still,
back up?
it's
or-
not too late. I couldn't do it. And so for the Historic Society, so it would have to be you guys putting it together because I got an event the day before and one the day after. So
Well, I'm
it's
not
like
saying
a-
that we do, I was just.
No,
it
I'm
made
just
me
saying
think that
I
something
signed
that
up
we-
so you can have the space. The space is
Oh.
there. They think I'm coming.
I haven't talked-
I have the heart. Because I didn't know if somebody would do it. So, yeah,
That's the 18th.
it's a Sunday afternoon. It's only 4 to 7. It's a lot of fun. Really, it's nice. Yeah, it is.
I have it on my schedule, but I
I have
haven't.
it on my calendar too.
Yeah.
I was planning on
unfortunately
being
have
there.
Another event I have to go to.
Well, that's what I mean.
Well, I was
It would
planning on being
require, yeah, stuff and have a table. I mean, it requires a little bit. They want interactive, so
Mhm.
if you were gonna do it.
We don't have our little brochures yet, but
No.
I can easily print brochures.
You made them up. We
Since I
had them in
created
black
them.
and white. Yeah.
Right, I can easily print brochures. If we, if,
Yes, for an event, you mean, yeah.
mhm.
Well,
do we
actually, you
want to
should
discuss
start
next
printing
meeting?
them up for me to keep at the historic buildings. So if you even.
do we want to discuss next meeting, what other
Community
events we
outreach.
might?
I put it on to.
Yes,
Okay.
publications, distribution kind of a thing.
Mhm.
We have our new book coming out, so.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Anything
Okay.
else?
Good.
Well, then can I make a
don't
motion
think
that we adjourn?
Second.
You got it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?